One day, Veronica woke up to a novel that told of the love between the human dog Cadiz and Princess Alain. The work was called The Princess's Hunting Dog. This book world was quite evil. In it, ordinary people were oppressed by animal people. The character in whom the girl moved was called Rowena Larel. She was the main villain of the novel. The girl had read about such transmigrations in books and seen in movies. She could not think that such a thing could happen in the real world. She was also confused by the fact that she was in the body of the villain and not the main heroine. Veronica never thought she would ever find herself in the book world. She just wanted to find the cat, and nothing more. Before appearing inside the book, the girl lived with her grandmother since her parents had died long ago. Veronica was a lonely person. She found solace in the yard cats. The girl fed 4 stray cats. They understood and obeyed her. Veronica looked after them for 5 years, so she became very attached to them. One day, someone poisoned the food. Unfortunately, 3 of the cats died, and the 4th one disappeared somewhere. Veronica really hoped that the 4th cat was still alive. Deep in the night, she went to look for him. Crossing the road in the right place, the girl fell under the wheels of a truck. She felt a strong impact, and then her eyes went black. The girl also heard the pitiful meowing of a cat. A moment later, Veronica woke up in a new body. The girl guessed that if she did not find a way out of this world, she would never see her grandmother and her favorite cats again. No matter how scared the girl was, she still found the strength to overcome negative emotions. There was no time to give up, no time to be sad. The girl decided to survive in this world at any cost. According to the plot of the novel, Rowena was blinded by power, so she became a concubine of the old emperor. With his help, the girl committed atrocities, as a result of which she was killed. When Veronica found herself in the book world, Rowena was already doing everything to become the concubine of the emperor. Since the girl did not want to die, she came up with a plan according to which she had to marry the Duke of Blois, the main villain of the novel, instead of her sister, Rinia. The Duke of Blois' family had the power to oppose the imperial court, but the emperor was constantly making efforts to restrain him. The girl guessed that if she married the duke, it would help her avoid marriage to the emperor. Rinia, after her father's remarriage to Rowena's mother, was subjected to beatings. The girl was wanted to be forcibly given in marriage to the duke to get a lot of money for her. It was better for Rinia if her sister Rowena married the duke. The girl knew that Rinia would most likely give in to her sister. However, there was one big problem. Rowena hated animal people, and the duke was precisely the cat man. The girl knew that it was today that Rinia would go to Duke Blois' estate to marry him in the future. She decided to take action. Rinia, there you are. Quickly take off your clothes. We need to change before the knights rush here. I have absolutely no time to explain anything to you at the moment, so obey me and quickly remove your dress," ordered the girl. "Rowena, what is wrong with you? Why are you demanding this of me?" asked a crying Rinia, but still gave her sister her wedding dress. "I know you don't want to marry the Duke. That's why you're hiding in your room. I will marry in your place. If it makes you uncomfortable, consider it payment for all that you had to endure from my mother," Rowena exclaimed. "You have someone you love, am I right? So I want you to be happy by his side. I'll get in the carriage that's supposed to take you to the Duke's estate, and you run away from here as fast as you can." The knights burst into the room. Rowena hurriedly threw a thick veil over her face. The knights didn't notice that there was a completely different girl in front of them. Grabbing Rowena, the knights forcefully pushed her into the carriage. "I've done it. The plot of the novel has changed." The girl rejoiced to herself. "Welcome to the Duke of Blois' estate," the butler exclaimed. He motioned for the girl to escort her to the Duke's study. When Rowena entered the Duke's study, he looked at her carefully. Rowena noted to herself that the man had a pleasant green eye color. The Duke approached the girl and asked her to lift her veil. He wanted to see her face. Rowena noted to herself that the Duke was not only handsome in appearance, but also quite tall. He was a man and a cat at the same time. "In communicating with my cats, I realized that one must blink one's eyes slowly. In this way, a person shows the animal that he does not wish him anything bad. The girl thought to herself, "Are you trying to seduce me? How amusing that is! By the way, I've figured you out. You're not the Renia Larcel I paid the count for. Did they switch the merchandise? Why did you come here, Rowena?" asked the Duke to the girl. "I was exposed so quickly. What am I to do now? I must not show my fear. According to the plot of the novel, Duke Blois was a very capricious, cold-blooded, and cruel villain. I need to answer him with extreme caution." Frightened, Rowena thought. "Yes, I am indeed Rowena Larcel. I have come here to marry you," replied the girl to the Duke. "You say you want to marry me. Are you asking me to marry a deceitful woman?" clarified the Duke. "I did not mean to deceive you. I am sorry you were not warned of this beforehand. If I remember correctly, the terms of marriage require your bride to be a girl of respectable family. I conform to that," Rowena said in an apologetic tone. "Yeah, the problem isn't your background. It's the fact that you like to bully human beasts. How can I trust you knowing that you abuse animals? Oh, and you're also asking me to marry you," replied the Duke. "If the problem is my hobbies, you may not worry about that. I promise that I will not be cruel to you," assured the Duke by the girl. "Huh? You promise not to be cruel to me? How ridiculous that sounds." Laughing, said the Duke. The Duke summoned the butler and ordered him to escort Rowena to the guest room. I can't tell from the look on his face what he's thinking right now. Still, since he ordered her into the room, he probably won't kick her out. Rowena thought as she followed the butler. "You can stay in this room for now. If you need anything, ring the bell." The butler bowed to the girl and then left her temporary room. The girl remembered that in the novel, Renia had been escorted to the 4th floor and put in a bedroom for the Duke's relatives. Rowena, on the other hand, was led to the guest room of the outhouse, which meant that the Duke did not consider the girl his bride. Well, I had foreseen that as well. I don't consider it too bad a sign. It's not long until midnight. Maybe I should sneak into the Duke's room, thought Rowena, flopping down on the bed. In the original story, Duke Blois possessed a curse. He had been poisoned several years ago, causing him to suffer from terrible headaches. This information was kept in strict secrecy. The girl decided to use it for her own personal purposes. The Emperor himself is fond of Rowena Larcel. They say that recently at a ball she kissed Ermengarde right in front of His Majesty. I don't know what's on her mind. Why would she suddenly want to be your fiancé? Asked the Duke by his aide. Duke Demetrius Blois groaned in pain, biting his lower lip to blood. "The sickness is coming up again. I need to get some rest," said the Duke, grabbing his head. "By the way, she smelled nice. Next to her, my headache stopped for a while," thought the Duke, lying in bed. Suddenly he heard the door of his room slowly open. No sooner had Rowena crossed the threshold of the Duke's bedroom than she was immediately embraced by a black substance. "I thought you were my guest, but you turned out to be a rat. Should I ask why you snuck into my bedroom? Or should I just kill you?" asked the Duke, sitting up on the bed. "If you have something to say to me, then say it now. I'm not known for my patience." "Duke, I know you are sick. I can cure you," exclaimed the girl. "And how did you know I was sick?" Demetrius asked. Only family members knew about his curse. The Duke wondered how the girl had gotten wind of it. "My earring fell off and I started looking for it everywhere. I happened to hear sounds coming from your room," replied the girl. She really hoped the Duke would believe her lie. "I don't need your help. Get out of here," said the Duke to the girl and dispelled the black fog that enveloped her. "Duke, why are you refusing my help? I have healing powers. I will help you right away. It won't take long," Rowena promised. "It's not like you're losing anything. If I can't help you, then you can do whatever you want to me." "I told you to get out of my room, for your own safety." The Duke squeezed the girl's hand with all his might. Having read the novel, the girl knew that in this book world, there were no people with the ability to heal, except for one man. After moving into someone else's body, she had accidentally discovered this ability. After learning that she could heal, Rowena decided to use her ability to offer a deal to Duke Blois. Her plan was very simple. She wanted to heal the Duke and thus win his favor. Rowena wanted to marry the Duke so that she could then gain his protection and live in safety. What is happening now? Why didn't my plan work? Why won't he take my help? The girl thought fearfully. I want to eat you. You give off a nice odor that I really like, roared the Duke. He's touching me now so I can try to heal him, Rowena guessed. The girl wrapped her arms around the Duke's head. Get out of my room quickly, shouted the Duke, pushing the girl away from him. Rowena didn't understand why he was reacting this way. Had her treatment failed? The Duke called for his aide, Hale, to escort the girl out of his room. Our guards are too weak. They can't keep track of even one young lady. How come she snuck into my room? The Duke was indignant. I'll make it up to you, Hale promised. I have revealed all my cards to you, and if you want help, you need not delay. I want to warn you that I, too, can be capricious, said Rowena to the Duke and left his room. What on earth has she done to me? It was as if I was intoxicated by that smell. My mind shut down for a moment. My body stopped obeying me, and it was like the smell of freshly cut grass. The Duke thought to himself, could it be the magic of illusion? But the scent of this magic does not particularly affect me, who has the power of a demon. I noticed that after talking to this girl, I feel much better. Maybe she does have healing powers? We'll have to find out as much as we can about her. Other than the fact that she hates animals, I don't know anything else about her. During the night, the Duke had a dream. He saw a girl surrounded by several cats. There was the familiar smell of cut grass. A similar scent came from Rowena Larcel. One of the cats turned to the Duke and told him that they were the ones who had sent the girl to him. The cat asked that the Duke make her happy. Miss Rinia has arrived from Count Larcel's estate, reported the maids who entered. Rowena guessed that her sister had not escaped. Miss Rowena, the Duke of Blois has ordered us to wash you to get rid of the odor that emanates from you. Is there an odor coming off of me? Most likely that scent is affecting the Duke in some way. He was acting like he was drunk last night. Rowena guessed. The girl agreed to accept the maid's help. The maids not only bathed the girl, but also did her hair and helped her put on a new dress. I need to communicate with my sister as soon as possible and find out why she came here, in case the Duke says she is the one he wants to marry. I do hope he doesn't refuse the healing after all, thought Rowena on her way to the drawing room. When Rowena entered the parlor, the Duke and Rinia were there as well. The girl noticed small bruises on her sister's arms and face. Rinia, how did you end up here? And what happened to your face? You weren't touched by the Duke, were you? Rowena exclaimed. No, the Duke didn't even utter a word. Father ordered me to bring you back home, replied Rinia. It's understandable. The Count took out his anger on her. It's my fault. I should have seen it coming. I could already foresee that Rinia wouldn't be able to escape, and the Count would get angry at her and beat her again, thought Rowena. Rowena asked the Duke for a private word with him. And what do you want to tell me? Asked the Duke to the girl to break the lingering silence. Duke, marry me, Rowena asked. Why are you asking me that again? Why should I marry you? Asked the Duke. I'll tell you the truth. I don't want to be sold as a concubine to the Emperor. You don't want to be forcibly set up with the Emperor's illegitimate daughter and constantly watched over, do you? Answered Rowena. In this book world, animal people were treated as slaves. Demetrius Blois was born after the previous Duke of Blois raped his slave mother. Even though he was the son of a duke, he was still treated as a slave. When all the dukes of the Blois family died on the battlefield, Demetrius was the only one left alive. Therefore, he stood up as a half-human duke. He was also the only beast man with abilities. The emperor was not on the best of terms with Demetrius. He was afraid to leave him unattended, but he didn't want to give him a princess to marry either. It is to your advantage to marry me. That way you can take revenge on the imperial family you hate. Rowena continued to insist on her point. And you know quite a bit about me. Yes, I do need to marry someone urgently now, but you don't have to be my bride, do you? Dmitri remarked. When I saw you yesterday, I realized that you were suffering from not just an illness, but a curse. My healing abilities have helped you, haven't they? So let me be your fiancée instead of your sister. If you agree, I will help you using my abilities. And I see you know how to tell the difference between an ordinary illness and a curse. Do you really want to marry me that badly? Clarified the Duke. I am offering a bargain favorable to both of us. Only I have one condition, and it is a very simple one. Marital relations we will maintain only outwardly. You may have a mistress, so long as it does not in any way affect my reputation, replied the girl. We shall be divorced in 3 years, so our union will not last long. By the way, I noticed that you address me as you. I really wish you would be more polite to me. If you don't, I'll say you to you too. You are impertinent after all, the Duke remarked. And refrain from such expressions. I wish we were colleagues on equal footing with you, Rowena exclaimed. Then I have one condition as well. Tell me about the perfume you use, Demetrius asked. The girl answered him that she did not use any perfume. Dmitri grabbed the girl's hand and pulled her towards him. That smell hits my nose hard, and you keep denying it. If you're trying to charm me with that scent, think again. When I hear your scent, I want to devour you whole. Demetrius took a strand of the girl's hair in his hands. Let me go now. If you keep acting so rude, I won't help you, the girl exclaimed. Rowena walked over to the Duke's butler and asked him to have a carriage ready. She decided to return to the county. If you go home now, it's unlikely you'll be able to get out of there next time, Rinia exclaimed in surprise. And I'm not going to do anything. Duke Bloir will do that for me, replied Rowena. Why is there still no word? I should have pressed her. A little more, and I would have succeeded in persuading her. Count Larcel drummed his fingers nervously on his desk. Darling, calm down. You need not worry unduly. Remember your health, asked his consort Countess Larcel. And how can one calm down in such a situation? How could one replace a bride? The Count was indignant. Rinia, do you even have a head on your shoulders? How could you participate in such a stupid joke with your sister? Do you even know how much the Emperor promised for Rowena? That's a whole diamond mine. He also promised a castle where Rowena could grow old, and it will all be in the possession of the Larcel family. We need to force Rowena to become the Emperor's concubine by any means necessary. Rinia, if you do not persuade your sister to marry the Emperor, you will take her place, the Count warned. He didn't want to lose the diamond mine and the large castle. As soon as Rowena entered the house, she was immediately slapped by her father. I thought you were smart, and you pull such foolishness, shouted the Count. The Countess tried to calm her furious husband. The woman was afraid that her daughter's body would leave abrasions and bruises. If the Emperor found out about this, he would be very angry. The girl had experienced domestic violence before. When she lived in the real world, her father beat her mother badly. Unfortunately, the woman didn't survive. I'm so sick of it all. Why am I facing this again? Why do these people only care about material goods? They're afraid of leaving injuries on my body that the Emperor might see afterward. Annoyed, Rowena thought. The girl raised her eyes and looked angrily at the Count. What's the matter? What does that look? Have you decided to go against your father's will? Asked the Count to his daughter. And you think I can't? The girl asked defiantly. What a wretch! How dare you! Roared through his teeth at the Count. The Count swung around and slapped his daughter across the face. Trying to press my conscience. And this is after all the effort I put into getting you noticed by the Emperor? Shouted the Count. As much as you might regret allowing yourself to hit me, said Rowena to the Count. The Count swung to hit his daughter again, but the Countess stopped him. The woman was worried about the consequences of such actions. Rowena slapped herself on the cheek with all her might. She struck herself again and again. The astonished Count ordered his guards to stop the girl and take her to a room. If the Emperor finds out that I am being beaten by my father, I think he will punish you, the girl exclaimed. What are you talking about? Did you beat yourself to such a state yourself? You did it on purpose, didn't you? Marveled the Count. What does it matter? The Emperor will believe anything I tell him anyway. I'll tell him that I was beaten by my father. That's why my face is so hurt. And if you keep touching me, I won't just let it go, Rowena warned. That's it, I'm tired. I'll walk to my room myself, and don't you dare enter it. The girl took a quick step towards her room. She knew the Count would not send her to the Emperor until the wounds on her face healed. A few days later, Rowena all but decided to leave her room. The wounds on her face were healing slower than she had expected. I was told you summoned me. Did you want something from me? Asked the girl as Nigel approached. He was Rinia's lover. I'll ask you bluntly, do you love my sister Rinia? Would you like to see her? Rowena inquired. I am very eager to see her, even if our meeting will be our last, exclaimed Nigel, and knelt down in front of the girl. If you want it so much, then why aren't you doing anything about it? Asked the girl. Rowena realized that Nigel was below Rinia in status. She doubted that such a man could make her sister happy, and she wasn't entirely sure that his feelings were sincere. Still, Rowena decided to take a chance. When the Duke of Blois arrives, I will tell him to take you with him. Get into my carriage and wait there. And when you meet Rinia at the Blois estate, run away with her. There is nothing I can do to help you thereafter. My job is only to help you meet. I am very grateful to you for that, at least, Nigel exclaimed. Tears of joy came to his eyes. That same evening, an excited maid burst into Rowena's room. She announced that the Duke of Blois had arrived at the Earl's estate. I was sure he would accept my offer and come for me, as he needs my help. Thankfully, it happened even sooner than I expected, Rowena thought to herself. Using powder, the girl hid the bruises on her face and went to see the Duke. I thought you agreed that it was best for Rowena to return home. Then why are you looking for her? Asked the Count to his guest. The Duke answered him that he needed to speak to his daughter. If you were offended by the fact that your bride was switched, then I sincerely apologize, said the Count. Demetrius assured him that he was not looking for an apology. He has a couple of questions for Rowena. Demetrius suddenly looked at the doors. There he noticed a girl watching through the ajar door. How did he sense I was here? Rowena wondered. Rowena is in her room right now. She is resting. I don't think you'll be able to meet her. Perhaps you will come next time? Asked the Count. The Duke wouldn't listen to him. He rose from his seat and headed for the door. You are wrong. Your daughter is behind that door right now, exclaimed the Duke and swung the doors open. Rowena, what are you doing here? The Count was indignant. My lady, forgive me for my insolence, but it seems to me that you are now in danger, said the Duke and picked the girl up in his arms. Demetrius sat Rowena down on the couch and asked the Count to move away from him. I don't like to be touched. You had better exercise caution before something unpleasant happens, said the Duke to the Count. And as for you, Rowena, I want to continue the conversation with you that we couldn't finish last time. Wait, what's wrong with your face? Demetrius noticed the abrasions on the girl's face. Rowena replied to herself that the Duke had rather keen eyesight. He saw the bruises hidden behind a layer of powder. You had your hand in her? I didn't realize she was treated that way in the family. Demetrius looked at the Count carefully. He guessed that the Count was raising his hand on his daughters. I'm sorry, but these are our family matters, and they are absolutely none of your business, grumbled the Count. Well, that's where I disagree with you. Miss Rowena, I just happen to have this in my pocket. Dmitri pulled a folded piece of paper from his breast pocket and held it out to the girl. Unfolding the piece of paper, the girl saw that it was a marriage contract. No, you can't sign this, shouted the Count. He wanted to snatch the contract out of his daughter's hands, but Demetrius stopped him. Rowena put her signature in the lower right corner of the contract. At the same second, a wedding ring appeared on the girl's finger. The Count grabbed the contract and tore it into small pieces, but it was too late. The wedding ring also appeared on the Duke's finger. It's useless, Count. You yourself realize that divorce is only possible if the spouses personally sign the documents. Dmitri said in a serene voice. But that is impossible! Rowena was supposed to become the Emperor's concubine. If he finds out what happened, then you, Duke, will be in trouble, shouted the Count. Why do you say that as if you are the Emperor yourself? Or do you wish to arrogate to yourself the imperial power? What right do you have to interfere in other people's lives? Demetrius was indignant. Well then, my dear consort, let's go home, said the Duke to the girl. Of course, my dear. Smiling happily, the girl exclaimed. She had finally gotten what she wanted. Now, I'm starting to worry if everything is going to be all right, confessed Rowena to the Duke on her way to his estate. The girl belatedly began to worry that she or he might have difficulties with the Emperor. What could possibly go wrong? And why are you worrying about it? Even if some problems appear, you were still going to entrust them to me, weren't you? Demetrius asked the girl. As you wanted, my dear consort. I will deal with the consequences myself. You don't have to worry about anything. You'd better think about doing something about your face. He's insinuating that I use my powers right in front of him. By the way, he started addressing me as you, noted Rowena to herself. The girl touched her face, and seconds later, all the abrasions and scratches disappeared. Does it really work that easily? Dmitri marveled. In the evening over a glass of wine, Dmitri decided to reflect on what he had seen. He had seen with his own eyes that the girl had healed herself just by touching the injured area of skin on her face. She truly had an amazing ability. Most likely, Count Larel doesn't know anything about his daughter's ability. If he knew about it, he would try his best to keep Rowena near him. He wouldn't give her to the Emperor. Dmitri muttered thoughtfully. It would be great if she could help me get rid of the curse. But even if she can't do that, I think it would be nice if she stayed by my side. She wants to divorce me after 3 years, but I'm not sure I want the same. She came into my life so boldly and smugly that she won't be able to run away from me that easily. Demetrius called for his assistant Hale. The Duke took a dagger from the table and made a deep cut on his palm. He dripped a few drops of blood into the wine glass. Hale, drink my blood so you can control my demon for a while. Go and break my father-in-law's arm. He dares to touch a man who belongs to me. Make it so he can't go anywhere for a long time. Hale took the glass of wine and blood from the Duke's hands and drained it in a volley. Since Rowena couldn't sleep, she decided to go out into the garden. The girl was worried about Rinia. She really hoped that she had met Nigel and they had all escaped by now. In her past life, the girl had lost absolutely everything. Her mother had passed away early. Her cats had died. At the moment, she couldn't hug her hot, favorite grandmother. The girl was worried about whether she would be able to keep her life in this world. Yes, she had managed to change the plot of the book, but what next? Would she be able to live and enjoy life in the body of the villain? Suddenly, Rowena heard some noise in the bushes. Looking in, she saw a large white cat. What a beautiful cat! Is he from around here? He has glossy fur and a gorgeous tail. He's just perfect. He probably has an owner who looks after him. Thought to herself, Rowena, I wish my cats were alive too. How I miss them after all. How I long to see them, mumbled the girl. Swinging over the fence, the white cat ran off on its own. What cats was she talking about just now? Isn't she famous for her cruelty to cat people? Dmitri muttered in surprise. The next day, Nigel and Rinia came to visit Rowena. Rinia, take these golden jewels I've collected for you. Run as far away from here as you can. These jewels will help you live in peace for a while. Rowena handed her sister a weighty box. Gosh, thank you so much, Rowena. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have dreamed of running away. It seems I've been thinking wrong about you all this time. I should have had a frank talk with you a long time ago, Rinia exclaimed. Tears ran down the girl's cheeks. The coachman loudly announced that it was time for him to hit the road. Thank you again. I won't forget your kindness. If you ever need my help, be sure to write, said Rinia in farewell. The butler notified Rowena that the Duke wanted to have breakfast with her. He also brought along 2 maids who were to serve the girl in the future. You can directly see by them that they are uncomfortable, although it's justified since they must have heard about me. the girl thought to herself as she looked at the maids. Rowena had no idea why the Duke had decided to have breakfast with her. She was extremely excited about it. For some reason, it seemed to her that the Duke would continue to live his life and pay no attention to her. When Rowena entered the dining room, she saw the Duke sitting at the table with his eyes closed. The girl noted to herself that when the light fell on his head, he looked like the white cat she had seen the previous evening. Hearing the noise, Dmitri opened his eyes. He motioned for the girl to take a seat at the table. Speaking of last night's cat, the color of the Duke's hair is very similar to the color of that cat's fur, but I don't think it was the Duke. Why would he turn into a cat and come to the outhouse where my room is? Thought to herself Rowena over breakfast. Although, come to think of it, the only thing in front of the Duke at the moment is meat dishes. Cats love meat. Also, when he bites his food, you can see the small fangs. Dear consort, since we have become husband and wife, it would be better if you move into my room, suggested the Duke. Wait, but there was nothing about that in the contract, rejoined Rowena indignantly. Any wedding is a contract, and after a wedding, sharing a common bed is considered an unspoken agreement, isn't it? Demetrius asked the girl. But our contract is unusual, so I cannot recognize such an unspoken agreement. Let's assume that I haven't heard anything, and I will go. Rowena jumped up from her seat and hurried to her room. I can't understand what's going on. In the novel, the Duke never touched Rhynia, so why is he offering me one now? Indignant to herself, Rowena said. And why did the mistress leave the dining room so hastily? What happened during breakfast? Asked the Duke, his assistant Hale. Hale, answer me. Can a tomato be cute? During breakfast, Rowena muttered that the tomato has a beautiful color and looks extremely cute, said Dmitri, scrutinizing the tomato lying in front of him. The tomato is red, and the mistress's hair and eyes are the same color. Maybe she likes things that are similar to her in some way, Hale speculated. Hale knew his master was half cat, so he didn't distinguish between shades of red. Dmitri thought the girl's hair was as green as the leaves on the tree branches. By the way, is the suggestion of sharing a room so shocking? Dmitri thought to himself in surprise. In a world where beastmen were despised, showing one's true form was considered a disgrace. Dmitri had always fallen asleep as a cat, so his words about sharing a bedroom were not sincere. However, he wanted to constantly enjoy the smell that came from Rowena. The girl smelled like fresh spring foliage. Master, are you going to head to your office now? Hale clarified. Dmitri answered him that he wanted to bask in the sun after lunch. Dmitri picked up a tomato from the table and went to the garden. Oh, did you come here again? You're even more beautiful in the daytime than you are at night, exclaimed Rowena. Dmitri shuddered fearfully. He hadn't expected to meet his newfound spouse in the garden. To be honest, I didn't think you and I would meet so soon. Thank you for coming again. By the way, what is that handsome boy holding in his teeth? Does the sweet boy really like tomatoes? Provoked the girl. What's that swaggering manner of speech? How does she talk to me? Dmitri dropped the tomato from his mouth in surprise. This was no way to talk to beastmen in this world. Dmitri guessed that she perceived him as a regular cat. Look at you, you dropped your tomato. Rowena bent down and picked up the tomato from the ground. I brought this tomato to compare if it's really similar to her hair color. I should get going before she guesses who I really am. Dmitri hurriedly hid in the nearest bushes. Where did you run off to? You forgot your tomato. It's probably your lunch. You shouldn't lose it. Did you know that tomatoes are what prevent cats from aging prematurely? The girl exclaimed as she made her way through the bushes. What makes her think I'm old all of a sudden? Dmitri thought resentfully. He decided to go back to his office. Dmitri guessed that if he stayed in the garden, the girl was unlikely to get away from him. A few hours later, Dmitri went back to the garden again. There he saw a box. Inside the box lay an improvised toy. It smelled of Rowena. Dmitri walked over to the toy and gently touched it with his paw. And I see you liked my gift. How cute you are, after all. You're just a white, fluffy cloud. The girl cautiously approached the cat and squatted down beside it. No, she's very strange after all, Dmitri thought to himself and ran away. Gone again. I never got to pet him, which is a pity, mumbled Rowena. The next morning, the Duke called the butler to him and asked him where his consort was. The butler replied that the lady had left at the invitation of Madame Elbas. In the beginning, she poisoned my mother and gave me poison to drink. And now she is trying to harm my wife? Dmitri thought to himself fearfully. He ordered the butler to urgently prepare a horse. When Rowena got out of the carriage, no one came out to greet her. It was a great disrespect to her. When she looked up, she noticed that the maids were watching her from the window and gossiping about something. It looked like Madame Elbas and her maids had decided to pick on Rowena. No, I will not allow them to treat me disrespectfully, the girl thought to herself. She saw a small branch lying on the ground. The girl picked up the branch and wrote in the sand, "Here is where Rowena forgot." After that, the girl got into the carriage and ordered the coachman to go home. One of Madame Elbas's maids ran to Rowena's carriage and asked her not to leave. The maid explained that all the servants were busy preparing for Rowena's arrival, so no one had come out to greet her. The maid offered to follow her. Rowena got out of the carriage and followed the maid. "Welcome to my home, Lady Rowena," said Madame Elbas to the girl. She was the consort of the past Duke of Blois and Dimitri's stepmother. At the moment, she was considered Rowena's mother-in-law. "Due to preparations for the tea party, I am late in greeting you. I hope for your understanding. Except Lady Rowena, you probably don't know what the rules and regulations are, am I right?" Madame Elbas asked. "In my invitation, I asked you to observe all formalities. What is this view you have? Why did you show up here in pants?" "I saw what the invitation said, but I haven't had time to unpack all my things yet. I don't have time to make myself a new dress at the moment." Rowena lied. She wasn't comfortable in dresses, so she decided to wear pants to meet her mother-in-law. "So that's it. Too bad you didn't have time to get a new dress. I'll give you one of mine. Change into it," said Madame Elbas. "Thank you for your concern, but I came here to tell you that I will not be attending the tea party," replied Rowena. The girl had a bad feeling, so she hurried back home as soon as possible. Suddenly, one of the maids tripped and doused Rowena with red wine. "Are you all right, Lady Rowena?" "Apparently it can't be helped. You'll have to change into the dress I suggested," said Madame Elbas with a cheerful grin. As Rowena approached the gazebo where her mother-in-law was holding a tea party, the ladies sitting at the table gasped in surprise. Glancing at the maid standing next to her, Rowena guessed why they reacted that way. Madame Elbas had given her sister-in-law the maid's clothes. "What are you standing there for, Lady Rowena? Hurry and sit down." "Oh my, and it turns out there is no room at the table for my daughter-in-law," Madame Elbas exclaimed. "You may sit in that chair, though. Don't just stand there. Don't make us wait for you." Madame Elbas pointed to the chair on which the maid's apron lay. Rowena guessed that her mother-in-law had planned all this in advance. She wanted to humiliate the girl. "Quickly answer me. Where is my wife?" Demetrius asked Madame Elbas's butler. The butler told him that the Duke had no right to barge into his stepmother's house like that. "I ask you again, where's my consort?" Demetrius shouted, grabbing the butler by the chest. The butler had to tell him that Lady Rowena was enjoying a tea party with the other guests. "You have absolutely no upbringing. How can you talk to people higher than you in status like that? By the way, not Lady Rowena, but Duchess," said Demetrius, and pushed the butler away from him. "Now I'm not that helpless little boy anymore. I won't let even a hair fall from the heads of those people I care so much about," Demetrius thought irritably. "Madam, you should definitely try this cake. It is simply delicious," exclaimed Rowena. "Enough already! Get off me quickly!" shouted Madame Elbas. "And I see my dear spouse is having a good time," said Demetrius, who approached. "Darling, have you decided to join us?" Rowena jumped up from her chair, accidentally knocking it over with Madame Elbas. "You need to be more careful. At your age, it's dangerous to fall to the ground like that. You might hurt yourself something," Rowena exclaimed. "We still have some important things to do, so I'll have to take my spouse," said Demetrius to his stepmother. After that, he took his spouse by the hand and led her to the carriage. Have I accidentally damaged your reputation, Duke? Lowering her eyes to the floor, Rowena asked. It is nothing of the sort. If Madame Elbas arranges something like this again, behave the same way you did today. I will take care of the consequences. At the sight of you, I am relieved at heart. I wish I could have seen more of you, replied Demetrius. The girl laughed merrily. She is not as weak as my mother. She turned out to be very strong and brave, thought to himself the Duke. Suddenly, Dmitri rumbled quietly. Startled, he clamped a hand over his mouth. What was that? The girl asked, surprised. Here we are, exclaimed Demetrius, and jumped out of the carriage. Entering the Duke's study, Hale was surprised at the order reigning there. Usually, when the Duke went to his stepmother's estate, he returned home extremely irritated and demolished everything in his way. It was his office that got the brunt of it. Hale had met Duke Blois 8 years ago. They served in the same unit. The Duke was treated poorly as he was a man-beast. Hale considered himself indebted to the Duke, as he had risked his life to get an arrow while protecting him. Hale noticed on his lord's face a joyful smile. This was something that rarely happened to him. Your lordship, Baron Lance's consort is spreading strange rumors about Lady Rowena, narrated Hale. So the news of the Duchess sitting on Madame Elbas's lap has reached her as well, said the Duke thoughtfully. Rowena had noticed that not all of the servants on the Duke's estate treated her with the respect she deserved. The girl wanted to dismiss a few of the servants. This had to be asked of the Duke somehow. Some servants frankly expressed their indignation to Rowena about the fact that she dared to wear pants to Madame Elbas's tea party. They thought that only a dress should be worn to this honorable lady's house. Rowena thought that some of the maids were under the influence of Madame Elbas. It was necessary to reduce their number to prevent Madame Elbas from interfering in the Duke's life. To begin with, we should fire the head maid Sophia. If she has a lot of seniority, it means that she has most likely been a supporter of Madame Elbas for a long time, especially since I've heard that she frequents that manor. Rowena thought to herself. A butler entered the girl's study. He brought a small chest. In it lay a monthly payment for personal expenses. The amount was very impressive. The girl decided to go to the Duke to thank him for his generosity. Darling, why did you come to me? Did something happen? Surprised the Duke, noticing his spouse on the threshold of his office. Everything is fine. I just came to check on your condition, replied the girl. The Duke motioned for her to take a seat on the couch. If you want to check on my condition, wouldn't it be better if you sat next to me? Said the Duke to the girl. Why? It is enough for me to simply take your hand. Rowena held out her hand to the Duke. Dmitri put his hand into the girl's open palm. Rowena noticed that something was bothering the Duke. I sense there is some congestion inside the Duke. He must be feeling pain in those areas. We'll have to heal his most sore spots next time. Rowena thought to herself and let go of the Duke's hand. I said I would treat you once every 3 days, but if the condition worsens, call me any time. It's not difficult for me, so you don't have to endure the pain, said the girl to the Duke. And about my monthly payment for personal expenses, it's too much. I said I can only treat wounds. I can't raise the dead. You're paying me too much for my services. I don't expect you to resurrect the dead. Still, if you think the amount is too much, just accept it as payment for keeping your abilities a secret from others. I'm glad I'm the only one who can use them, replied the Duke to the girl. And, by the way, if you do well as a duchess, I will additionally gift you with gems. I would like to use my power as duchess and dismiss a few servants with your permission, Rowena asked. The butler is in charge of managing the staff. You may speak to him and do as you see fit, whispered Demetrius in the girl's ear. As dusk fell, Rowena went to the fountain. She liked to listen to the sound of the water. It soothed her. A white cat approached the girl. Rowena reached out to the cat and gently stroked it. Damn, what am I doing? She's baited me with her scent again. Dmitri thought to himself in surprise. Listen, I'd like to think of a name for you. Since you live at Blois Manor, how about if I call you Blue? I really hope you like the new nickname, said the girl. You know, When I look at you, I think of my cats. I sometimes think it would be nice to have a house of my own. I definitely have some cats there. They'd be like family to me. In a world where human beasts are treated like animals, she considers cats her family? Dmitri thought in surprise. Dmitri touched the girl with his tail. You decided to comfort me. What a great thing to do. What a clever cat you are, after all, Rowena exclaimed. Okay, I need to get as far away from her as possible. When I'm around her, I start acting weird, Demetrius thought to himself and hurried back to his room. Rowena was glad that she finally had money. Now she could buy herself all sorts of outfits, give small gifts to her maid Agenna. Suddenly the girl heard a loud hissing sound. Somewhere in the back alley cats were fighting. Mistress, let's go quickly. We shouldn't get into a cat fight, Agenna said in a pitiful voice. Agenna, I can't stand by. Look at this. One of those cats has a distinctly shabby appearance. He's probably been abused by humans. You stay here quietly and I'll check it out. I want to pick up the injured cat, replied the girl. Are you really going to go right there? What if all of a sudden those cats scratch you? I mean, they're obviously aggressive. Don't you think it's too dangerous? Agenna asked fearfully. As soon as Rowena entered the alley, the cats scattered in different directions. Only the injured cat remained. He clearly had an injured paw. Come here to me. I want to examine your wound, Rowena asked. The cat cautiously approached the girl. Rowena removed the glove from her hand and began to treat the cat's injuries. It's much better now, isn't it? I'm glad I could help you, smiling, the girl said. With a loud meow, the cat snuggled up against the girl's legs. Agenna, I've decided I'm going to take this cat with me. How can you throw away such a cute animal? I'll keep it in an outbuilding away from the main building. Perhaps the Duke won't mind that, Rowena exclaimed. Demetrius heard an unfamiliar odor coming from the outhouse where Rowena lived. The Duke hurried there. Looking into the girl's room, the Duke saw that some cat was sitting on her arms. What is this? How dare she have a cat in my territory? Everything here belongs only to me. Everything is mine. These trees, this land, and this woman. Dmitri thought to himself irritably. Dmitri walked over to the girl and hissed loudly. Blue, I realize this situation is not to your liking, but I want to assure you that this kitty will be living in my room, exclaimed the girl. She was so worried that the Duke wouldn't let her keep the cat that she had forgotten about Blue altogether. So she doesn't want to sleep in my room, but she decided to keep some yard cat. I'm not going to have that cat on my property, Dmitri decided to himself. Taking human form, Dmitri knocked on the girl's room. What happened? Why did you come to see me? Asked Rowena, opening the door of her room. The Duke leaned over the girl and began to sniff her. There is some foreign odor coming from you, noted the Duke. Listen, Duke, I'll explain it to you in a moment. The girl didn't expect the Duke to find out about her pet so quickly. Agenna came out of the bathroom. In her hands, she held the cat. Wait, there's no need to kick this cat out. You see, I found him when I was in town. Someone had beaten him up. He was in a terrible state, so I decided I would take him in and take care of him. He's very sweet and docile. The girl tried to cover the cat with her body. Would you not allow me to keep this poor animal? Rowena looked at the Duke with a puppy dog look. All right, do as you see fit. You can keep that cat. Demetrius couldn't resist the girl's charm. Rowena woke up to the loud meowing of the cat. What are you doing awake? What's happened? Is something bothering you? Asked the girl to the cat. She decided to name him Coco. There's nothing wrong with me. You just take a look at this list. I made a list of people you can fire. Coco held out a folded piece of paper to the girl. Rowena looked at the cat in surprise. She hadn't expected to encounter a talking animal in this world. I heard you were talking about the change of servants this evening. For your sake, I did a little research. All the people on the list talked about how things were better under Madame Elbas. And why didn't you tell me at once that you could talk? Or are you being half human? Rowena asked. Animal people don't want others to know about their abilities. Well, except for dogs. They are exceptions. I told you because I'm sure you won't do me any harm, replied the cat. And what is your real name? If you're half human, you're bound to have a name, said Rowena. The cat asked her to keep calling him Coco. It was a name he liked. I can't take on human form because of this collar, but you mistress, you can ask your big brother to take it off, said the cat to the girl. And which elder brother are you talking about now? Asked the girl. That head cat who tried to kick me out of here yesterday, replied Coco. Is he talking about the Duke of Blois now? He actually didn't like that cat. I'm not sure he'll agree to help, thought to herself Rowena. Only my older brother will be able to get this collar off me. This collar has a spell on it, so an ordinary person won't be able to handle it. Yesterday, I saw a demon hiding in Big Brother's shadow. Only strong cats can control them. Rowena remembered. The book described that cat people with 9 lives were able to pledge one of them to make a contract with a demon. The girl also remembered that when she snuck into the Duke's room, he summoned his demon and restrained her. But how will the Duke react when he finds out that you're not an ordinary animal, but a half-human? Rowena asked thoughtfully. Coco answered her that the Duke would already guess it. You see, we recognize each other immediately. It's just that there's an unspoken rule between us that we keep it a secret. The next day, Rowena entered the Duke's office with a cat in her arms. There's that cat again! How dare he show up here? Demetrius thought angrily. With a loud howl, Coco broke out of the girl's arms and hid under the desk. Calm down, Duke. I brought Coco here because he has something to tell you, Rowena exclaimed. My nose already hurts from that cat spreading his odor in my house, grumbled the Duke. Stop spreading your pheromones everywhere! Duke grabbed the cat by the scruff of its neck and lifted it high above the ground. Mistress, save me! I'm scared! Screamed the cat. The girl asked the Duke for compassion for the cat. Such people are called weaklings, said the Duke and let the cat go. So he's asking for his collar to be taken off? Asked Duke when the girl finished her story. Look, take this collar off of me and I'll be out of here in no time. How about that? Asked Duke to Coco. I'm of course sorry to see Coco go, but if that's what's best for him, then I agree with his wish, said Rowena. The Duke snapped his fingers and immediately a thick black smoke enveloped his body. The smoke touched the cat's collar with its black, long tentacles, and it immediately fell apart into several pieces. How nice to finally feel human again. The cat immediately transformed into a blonde-haired, curly-haired teenager. Thank you. I can now be human again thanks to you. You're naked! You should be more modest, shouted the Duke and covered Rowena's eyes with his hand. Thanks again for your help. Coco turned into a cat again and scurried out of the Duke's office. In the evening, Rowena sat down again to formulate her plan. The girl wanted to find out all the servants who worked for her mother-in-law and then fire them. Suddenly, the girl heard someone gently pawing at her window. Opening the window, Rowena saw an injured Coco. Help me, Coco whispered and fainted. Rowena picked Coco up in her arms and carried him to her bed. The girl placed her hands on the cat and began to heal him with her power. After a while, Coco's condition stabilized. What a relief that in this world I have the power of healing. If I could do that in the real world, my cats would be alive, the girl thought to herself. A while later, Coco took on a human form. Since he was completely naked, the girl hurriedly covered him with a blanket. We'll have to find out from Coco who did this to him. Did he really get into some kind of fight again? Was someone chasing him? Why was he beaten up? I also need to tell the Duke. He'll find out in time anyway. Entering the courtyard of the manor, the girl saw a large gathering of servants led by Duke Blois. Give us the half-human slave who is hiding in your manor, the guards demanded. Rowena guessed they were talking about Coco. We know for a fact that he is here. Give us permission to search everything. We'll make quick work of it and leave. Duke, he is in my room right now, Rowena said in a loud whisper. She really hoped the Duke would protect Coco. I am aware of that. There is a strong odor coming from him. That's why I can smell him from a distance, replied Demetrius to the girl. Duke, I hope you are not trying to protect this slave, since he is also half-human. If not, then you have absolutely no reason to keep us on your doorstep and not let us inside, exclaimed one of the guards. What did you just say? The Duke asked in an angry tone. The guard's last words were extremely displeasing to him. Duke, don't be angry. We are receiving money from the Count of Bilbao, and if you don't want unnecessary trouble, then give us this slave, said the guard. And if you don't find him during the search, can you pledge your life? Asked the Duke to the guard. Duke, there is a half-human slave hiding in the mistress's bedroom. There are witnesses who have seen him, said one of the maids and bowed low before Demetrius. Wow, I knew it. Then we should talk to the Duchess. Madam, this slave is the property of his master, and if you wish to possess him, then you must pay a bond for him, said the guard to Rowena. But Coco is not someone to be bought or sold, and I can't give them a wounded teenager. The girl thought to herself. You have the audacity to break into my house, ask me to give you something I don't know what, and now you're making my wife look like a thief. How dare you besmirch the Blois family name? The Duke exclaimed. Demetrius summoned his demon and directed it at the guards. The Duke has summoned his black demon, the guards shouted and ran away. Hale, go after them and deal with them completely, ordered the Duke to his aide. My dear, did they give you no peace? You seem glad I chased them away. Also, since I trusted you to manage the servants, I'll just watch you deal with this problem, said the Duke to the girl. Do as you see fit. This is a decision I have entrusted to you. You can fire all those who do not please you. When the girl returned to her room, she saw Coco sleeping serenely. Rowena decided it would be wrong for her to lie down next to him. The girl made her bed on the couch. Early in the morning, Demetrius went outside and began sniffing around his territory. He wanted to make sure there were no intruders on his land. As Dimitri returned to the house, Dimitri saw his spouse playing merrily with Coco. For a moment, Dimitri was interested in the toy tied to a stick that was in his wife's hands. Jumping high into the air, Demetrius caught it. Blue, you came here again? Do you like this toy too? The girl asked. God, what am I doing? Dimitri thought to himself and spit the toy out. It's a good thing this string didn't break. We can keep playing with this toy, rejoiced Rowena. Mistress, how about when I grow up, I take you to marry you, Coco suggested. What does the little fellow allow himself? That's it. My patience is over. Dimitri ran at Coco and hit him with his paw. Rowena made lists of duties and job changes. She handed them to the butler and the head maid. But I am in charge of the maids, and Derek is in charge of the merit. You can't interfere with the allocation of servants. If you make big changes right away, handling the maids will be quite difficult. The head maid was indignant. I don't think this kind of change is anything special. Senior maid Sophia continues to not put me in charge of anything. Annoyed, Rowena thought. I will run the household as I see fit. I am the one who is the mistress of this house. I want to make some changes in the makeup of the servants. It's your job to handle things here without too much talk, isn't it? Rowena asked the older maid. Or are you not confident in your abilities? Should I look for someone else for your position? All right. I will do as you say, but I want to warn you that the manor will be a bit noisy for a while, since you have changed everything to your liking. The older maid replied. Rowena told her that she was ready for such a thing. Now you, Derek, do you have anything to add? Asked the girl to the butler. I will do as you ordered, replied the girl to the butler. Why do I have to work in the kitchen? Can one change duties so suddenly? Exclaimed the maids after hearing of their new duties. I can't change anything. I can only observe that Madame Elbas has never allowed herself to do such a thing. The head maid Sophia replied each time. After the order to make changes to the servants' duties, the estate became very turbulent. Sometimes it happened that there was no water for laundry or lunch was served late. Rowena saw that there were regular quarrels between the maids. Sometimes I think this is their way of expressing their resentment toward me, Rowena thought to herself. Everyone whose duties have been changed has had their wages doubled, so there has been resentment among those whose pay has remained the same. There are maids who are constantly adding oil to the fire. Some have already decided to quit their jobs. Agena reported back. Mistress, all the servants have now gone to your bedroom. Coco warned the girl. "Thank you for coming to warn me," exclaimed Rowena and stroked the cat's nose. Sophia entered Rowena's room, accompanied by servants and maids. "Mistress, since your order for changes in the servants' work, it has become difficult for all of us to fulfill our duties. Please order us all to return to our original positions," Sophia asked. "I am paying you extra, but you are still unhappy about something." Rowena was indignant. "But you know our situation very well, mistress. This is a problem that can't be solved so easily with a pay raise," Sophia remarked. "All right, then from today everyone here is dismissed," said Rowena after a short pause. All the servants gave a startled aghast. No one had expected such drastic measures to be taken. "You come to me and tell me you can't work like this anymore. It's a pity, but I have to let you go so that you can find a more suitable job. I'm not going to put you back in your old jobs." Rowena promised to pay the servants a good severance package. "I can't leave here. Do you have any idea how many years I've been in this position? I've been working here since the last Duke," Sophia exclaimed. "And we are grateful for your long service. I told you I won't hurt you. I'll pay a good allowance. Ajenna, bring here the lists of people who are looking for work," asked Rowena of her maid. "But that's not fair. Is the Duke even aware that you've decided to kick us out?" asked Sophia. "What does the Duke have to do with this? And by the way, since you decided to talk about justice, I have something to tell you too. I have something prepared." Rowena motioned for Ajenna to fetch her notebook. "I've done a little research. In this notebook, I have recorded all of its findings. So let's begin. Hughes, who is present here, used the magic lamp for his own purposes and illegally earned a few thousand in a week." In a loud voice, the girl said, "Roland, you embezzled the uniform cloth and made 800,000 in a week. Sonia, you stole groceries and made 750,000 in a week. Artie, you stole cleaning supplies and made 500,000 in a week. I don't think there's no point in going on. The list is too long. By the way, there's a man on that list who made several million, and that's you, Sophia." "Sophia, answer me. Do you still think I'm being unfair? Do you still think we should go to the Duke and get his point of view on this? I, on the other hand, suggest that you leave here without making too much noise. I think my terms are more than loyal." "But you're not going to kick me out without having any evidence in hand, are you?" Sophia asked. "Darling, I haven't seen you around lately, so I was wondering what you've been so busy doing. I see you're up to some big changes." The Duke entered the girl's room, accompanied by his guards. "Why did the Duke come here?" Rowena thought in surprise. "That's not fair. I've been at Blois Manor for 6 years now. I've sacrificed so much for your family, and now I'm being kicked out," screamed Sophia, falling to her knees in front of the Duke. "That's right. You said before that you wanted to work for our family all your life," said the Duke. "Of course I do, after all. I've lived in these parts since I was a child. This is my homeland and my home," Sophia exclaimed. "But this is what it turns out. In the house that is your home, you behaved like the last rat. Do you know, Sophia, that catching small rats is a very dull occupation? So it is better to wait until the rat grows up," said the Duke to the woman. "It turns out that the Duke knew about everything but didn't take any action? He was waiting for her misdeeds to become more apparent," Rowena guessed. "Sophia Gerson, you will answer for all your crimes and be sent to the dungeon for the term you have worked at Blois Manor," the Duke told the woman, and then ordered his guards to lock her in the dungeon. "Everyone else is dismissed. My consort is too magnanimous since she is willing to pay your dismissals. Everyone whose name is on this list will remain without furloughs and without letters of recommendation." Rowena was extremely curious as to why the Duke had decided to intervene. "My dear, you've proven to be rather soft. I thought you would come up with something more interesting," said the Duke. Rowena admitted to him that she had never fired before. The Duke advised her to consult him about such matters next time. "By the way, why do you call me Duke even in public? Even though we were married under contract, you could have called me more affectionately. That's why the servants don't recognize you as my wife. From now on, call me by my first name. Demetrius, thank you for your concern. And since I am now allowed to call you by your first name, you may call me Rowena. The girl exclaimed. It seemed to Rowena that she and the Duke had become much closer. A few days later, Rowena brought Coco to the back of the market. She wanted him to get something for her. I need you to bring me the heart of the dragon. I know this stone appears if you beat a demon. They say you can get it from demons ruled by human rats. You're an awesome cat, so I'm sure you can handle the demon. In addition, I'm really interested in seeing how demons are hunted. If you can catch one, that would be great. Let's give it a try, shall we? Unfortunately, although Coco hunted for a whole day, he never managed to catch a demon. Seeing him, all the demons scattered in different directions. What a delicious smell. Do you smell like freshly cut grass? Asked Rowena, a blonde-haired boy. He was holding a small human rat in his hands. What kind of guy is that? He has very bright cat-like eyes. Could he be half human too? The girl thought to herself. You smell good. Will you be my maid? Asked the boy. What on earth are you talking about? Get the hell out of here! We don't have time to chat with you. We're busy. We have to hunt. Coco hissed angrily. And who are you hunting? Asked the boy. Coco told him that they were looking for the heart of the dragon. I know you have it. Hand it over quickly, demanded the guy from the Rat Man. The Rat Man waved his hands, and in the same second, a red stone fell on the guy's open palm. I will give you this stone, and in return, you will become my maid, offered Rowena by the boy. The girl noted to herself that he was rather thin. He had probably been living on the streets for a long time without supervision. Rowena suggested that he go to the tavern for lunch. The boy ate with great appetite. It was obvious that he was very hungry. Looking at the boy, Rowena thought about what to do with him next. She didn't want to leave him alone. But if she took him home, Dimitri would hardly like it. Rowena hoped the boy would leave after he ate, but he kept following her. Suddenly, a large pack of dogs came running out from around the corner. The dogs raised their heads up and howled loudly. In the same instant, Rowena was transported to a place unknown to her. There was only white light all around. It's been a long time since I've seen you, Rowena, whispered a young man in the girl's ear. Who are you anyway? Asked Rowena, fearfully recoiling to the side. The girl clutched the cats tightly to her. Rowena guessed that it was most likely Ermengarde standing in front of her. According to the original story, the real Rowena liked him. He was the one the girl had kissed at the ball when the Emperor saw her. The guards told the Duke that Rowena was stuck in a magical barrier. There was nothing they could do to prevent it. There were collars with a golden star hanging around the dogs' necks. The Duke guessed that these dogs belonged to the Emperor. That meant he still hadn't forgotten Rowena. I'm going there right now to get my consort back, said Demetrius and summoned his demon. I see you and I haven't seen each other in so long that you have already forgotten my voice, said Ermin to the girl. He was a relative of the Emperor and an archmage. He met Rowena at the Libido Club. According to the original story, Rowena was very fond of Ermin. He was complicit in her mistreatment of half-humans. As for Ermin, Rowena was only entertainment for him. Rowena, you disappeared without warning. I was extremely surprised to learn that you were now living in a place called Blois. Did you really marry the Duke? You have no idea how angry the Emperor was, said Ermin to the girl. Rowena decided to remain silent, so as not to accidentally arouse unnecessary suspicion from Ermin. What's the matter? Why are you pretending like you don't understand what this is about? I would like to point out that after the ball, the Emperor beat me up. And you, who made it all up, are so calm. It's not fair. And by the way, why are you holding those cats in your arms? Did you bring them here for fun? The guy, who was in the guise of a Siamese cat, jumped from the girl's arms and rushed toward Ermin. He scratched his arm deeply. I see you brought a stroppy cat here. You should have tamed him better, exclaimed Ermin. Leave my cat alone! If you do anything to him, I won't just let it go, said Rowena in an angry tone. The girl realized that Ermin would be difficult to deceive. She needed to act like a true Rowena. Okay, I didn't come to you to fight. I brought you this. By the way, the Emperor is beyond furious. It's just as you wanted. Ermin held out a red envelope to the girl. The letter was written by the Emperor himself. He asked the girl to return to him. The Emperor promised that if she returned, he would turn a blind eye to her marriage to the Duke. So those were the Emperor's dogs? Asked the girl to Ermin. The original story said that the dogmen possessed white magic, and the main character was a member of the Emperor's squad and could create a magical barrier. Listen, you're a smart one after all. By the way, how do you like my barrier? It's cool, isn't it? Exclaimed Ermin. I was afraid of the demon that Duke Blois controls, so I asked the Emperor for his dogs. That man brought hunting dogs with him to taunt me. He just wanted to put on a show. I should cut all ties with the Emperor and with Ermin after all. They need to let them know that Rowena has changed. The girl thought to herself, Ermin, tell the Emperor that I have no intention of divorcing. With her chin proudly upturned, the girl said, You're not kidding right now? But you're going to come to the club meeting, right? Ermin asked in a surprised voice. No, Ermin. I will no longer attend the meeting. I have decided to start a new life at Blois Manor, replied the girl. You seem to hold a great grudge against the Emperor, but if I return with nothing, he will torture me to death. Perhaps I should hide in another country for now, Ermin said thoughtfully. By the way, Rowena, that kiss at the ball was something special to me. It was the best kiss of my life. As a token of my gratitude, I will give you some advice. You better be careful, for the Emperor will not rest so easily, said Ermin, leaning over the girl. Suddenly a loud explosion was heard. A huge hole appeared in the barrier. A black mist rushed into the magic barrier and enveloped Ermin. I've heard rumors that your demon is very strong, but I didn't think you could handle white magic so easily, Duke Blois, mumbled Ermin. Demetrius! Exclaimed the girl and rushed to her husband. She was glad he had come to help her. By the way, Count Gers, answer me one question. What is your connection with my wife? Asked the Duke to Ermin. I just came to see my friend. I absolutely do not understand why such rudeness. But the rumors don't lie. You are indeed uncooperative, Duke. Noted Ermin. Are you telling me that you brought the Emperor's hunting dogs with you just to see your friend? Is that what you want me to believe? Demetrius asked. It's a shame, of course, that you don't believe me, but in any case, I'm glad I figured it all out, replied Ermin. Well, I'd love to chat with you, but I have to go. Ermin broke the shackles of black mist. With a clap of his hands, the Earl vanished into thin air. In the same second, the magic barrier disappeared as well. What a bastard, grumbled Demetrius. Look, Demetrius, thank you for saving me today. I'm sorry you had to put up with all this because of Ermin, said Rowena. And what is your relationship with Ermin? Asked Demetrius. The girl answered him that there is no relationship between them. He is only a part of her shameful past. By the way, I wanted to ask you one question, mumbled Rowena. Yes, you can take him with you. What is it that surprises you? Why are you looking at me like that? Do you want to take this kid with you? If he's going to live in your outhouse, you can take him with you, said Demetrius to the girl. Okay, I promise you that he will live in my outhouse. Thank you for letting me keep him, exclaimed Rowena joyfully. Your cats will live in your outhouse, and you are moving into the main building. I have provided you with a room in the outhouse for temporary use. If you plan to stay at Blois Manor, move into the large bedroom. Especially that way there will be less talking among the servants. I've already prepared the bedroom next to mine. It's where past duchesses used to live. You are moving in today. Walking with his wife through the garden, the Duke noticed that she was constantly looking around. He became curious as to the reason for this behavior. I'm just looking for a cat. There's been a white cat living here for some time now. I've named him Blue. We meet him often and have managed to become friends. If I'm not in the outhouse, I think he'll miss me. I wanted to say goodbye to him, but he's nowhere to be seen. I even brought a pillow for him that I made myself. Give me that pillow. I'll give it to the white cat. I've seen that cat in the garden several times. I'm sure he'll come back here and more than once." The Duke held out his hand to the girl. After a little thought, Rowena still handed him the pillow prepared for the cat. "I've noticed Rowena is very fond of cats, but I can't yet admit to her that I am blue. If she finds out that I was hiding behind the white cat's guise, she might take offense. It's a good thing my spouse isn't that clueless," Dmitri thought to himself. "So from the first squad only you two came back?" asked the Emperor. The loyal dogs answered him that the others were captured by Duke Bloir's men. "So you mean to tell me that Ermin has abandoned the army I gave him? If Duke Bloir has a head on his shoulders, he won't harm my hunting dogs. However, I don't like this situation. But be that as it may, you must bring Rowena to me. You simply must follow my orders." The next morning, Rowena sent to the Duke to give him a letter that had arrived in her name. "A letter arrived this morning from Count Larsel's estate. It speaks of the mine that the Emperor has promised to give. It appears that a preliminary contract for possession has already been drawn up. The Count writes that a personal confirmation is required on my part. I refused to be the Emperor's concubine, but he still persists. He sent his man to the estate for the sake of it. I think it won't be possible to continue ignoring the Emperor's request. I plan to go to the manor, sign the documents, and return. If you don't mind, could you come along with me? I could go alone, but I'd rather go with you just in case." Rowena was already aware that the Duke could control a powerful demon. The girl thought that if Demetrius went along with her, even the Emperor wouldn't be able to do anything. "All right, I can't let you go there alone, so I'll allocate time for the trip," replied Demetrius to the girl. "What are you talking about, Duke? You promised to attend a meeting of the elders today. They will come with a report. We can't put it off any longer." Hale exclaimed upon hearing that the Duke wanted to visit Count Larsel's estate. "Demetrius, it's fine. I'll go by myself. Of course, it would be better if the two of us went together, but I myself realize that the elders' meeting is a very important event," Rowena exclaimed. "I am your wife, so it is unlikely that the Emperor will act in any way. Unless he intends to make war with you, he will keep his distance. Also, I will take an escort with me." Demetrius promised his wife that he would come to see her immediately as soon as he finished all his business. As soon as Rowena stepped out of the carriage, her mother immediately ran to her. "You have come after all. Last time you left so suddenly, I was uneasy and my father was worried," exclaimed the Countess, clasping her daughter's hands tightly. "It seems I went a little overboard last time too, so I brought gifts to apologize," Rowena said with a smile. Demetrius couldn't stop thinking about his spouse. He wanted to finish with all his business as soon as possible and go after her. Demetrius knew that the Count and Countess were quite devious people. They could trick their daughter into becoming the Emperor's concubine. Demetrius wished to have his consort by his side at Bloir Manor. He couldn't give up what was his.